80無勢なれど対馬の民を守らねばならない。今日俺はこの命を捨てる。船が海を覆っている。
死を恐れるな。飲み込まれるぞ。
Released in July 2020, Ghost of Tsushima arrived at the twilight of the PlayStation 4, a time when developers knew the hardware inside and out, pushing it to its absolute limits before the dawn of the PS5. Developed by Sucker Punch Productions and directed by Nate Fox, it fulfilled a fantasy long held by players, a true samurai open-world game. For years, fans of Assassin's Creed had dreamed of feudal Japan as a setting, and while Ubisoft would arrive years later with Assassin's Creed Shadows, Ghost of Tsushima got there first, and it did so with style. The version we are reviewing is the director's cut, which expands the original with the Iki Island expansions and small refinements. At its heart though, it's the same game that defined the generation, and with the sequel Ghost of Yotei now released, there's no better moment to revisit the journey of Jin Sakai. The game opens with a desperate cavalry charge into a hopeless battle, setting the stage for an experience that constantly balances beauty with brutality. Combat rests on a simple foundation: light and heavy attacks, dodges, and parries, but it grows into something far more nuanced. Direct combat is disciplined and punishing. Every swing has weight, timing is critical, and enemy types demand tactical adaptation. Postures add depth, forcing players to think before striking, while the Ghost stance adds an almost mythical flourish, a powerful mechanic that makes Jin feel like the very legend he is becoming. Stealth, on the other hand, is equally viable. Assassinations, poison darts, smoke bombs, and bows allow you to dismantle entire encampments without ever being seen. Level design supports this beautifully. Enemies are positioned for silent takedowns, shadows and tall grass invite hiding, and tools like the blowgun extend possibilities. What makes Ghost of Tsushima remarkable is that both styles, frontal dueling or silent infiltration, are polished, rewarding, and fully supported by the game's systems. The bow also deserves special mention. It bridges stealth and open combat, allowing decent eliminations or opening an attack with precision. It's versatile, satisfying, and makes encounters feel layered. Traversal ties everything together. Climbing and grappling add verticality, even if they don't reinvent exploration, while horseback travel defines much of the journey. The island is vast, but never feels empty. Mongol patrols roam the road, villagers offer side quests, and wildlife can be hunted or followed to shrines. Exploration is also tied directly to progression, with bamboo strikes increasing resolve, fox dens unlocking charm slots, and temples or hot springs expanding Jin's abilities. Tsushima feels alive, in ways many open-world games fail to achieve. Progression is also rewarding. Skill trees are varied, letting you specialize in combat stances, stealth abilities, or exploration tools. Charms and armor further refine your playstyle, creating tangible growth. And this progression isn't just mechanical, it's also thematic. As Jin's skills expand, so does the legend of the Ghost. NPCs whisper about him, enemies fear him, and the world acknowledges the transformation. It's character growth and gameplay progression working hand in hand,
いやはや志村殿の甥子がよもやあのクロードの正体とは。
Lastly, the HUD mirrors this elegance. It's minimalist and unobtrusive, with the guiding wind as its crown jewel, a system that replaces arrows or waypoints with a narrative flourish tied to Jin's father.
お父上は風となり導いてくださり、
It's creative, immersive, and reinforces the idea that every mechanic in this game serves both design and story.
志村殿に続け。
進め。
すべて私のせいです。
ジン、それでも武士か。
父上は私をかばって
息子を守るため戦で死んだのだ。
At its heart, Ghost of Tsushima is a story about honor, vengeance, and the painful compromises of survival.
お前が？今の頭は俺だからな。
Jin Sakai begins as a loyal samurai, raised in strict tradition and bound by a code that values honor above all else. But when the Mongol invasion crushes the island of Tsushima, Jin faces a devastating truth. Clinging to tradition may mean annihilation.
侍、我に下るか。
His transformation into the ghost is both a survival tactic and a moral fall. A man torn between who he was raised to be and who he must become.
武士であることを忘れるな。これでは鬼だ。
あやつらは猛虎です。
This conflict isn't abstract, it's reflected in every relationship. Jin is haunted by his father's death, an event that left him with guilt and unresolved trauma. His uncle, Lord Shimura, embodies the old code and becomes both mentor and antagonist, unable to accept the dishonor of Jin's methods.
誉れある戦いを忘れるな。
誉れは浜で死にました。ハーンの首を取るために。
怒りに任せよって。
The supporting cast is rich and varied. Sensei Ishikawa seeks redemption for the failure of his student, Tomoe, who turned her bow against him.
酒井仁だね。石川の犬。
Lady Masako is consumed by grief and vengeance after her clan is betrayed and slaughtered.
強き者が正さねばならん。邪魔立てするなら殺すまで。
わらびさえもか。
やめよ。
Yuna, a thief, embodies pragmatism and survival, showing Jin another path, one rooted in necessity rather than honor.
傷はどう？走れそう。
Her brother, Taka, symbolizes innocence and hope, and his fate reinforces the cost of war.
俺は姉さんと家と鉄だけで。
Kenji, a cowardly merchant, provides levity, but also highlights the struggle of ordinary people just trying to survive. Finally, the warrior monk Norio brings another layer. His arc, which ends in despair and moral compromise, reminds us that in war, no one escapes unchanged. Victory always demands sacrifice.
菰田の戦の後、俺も変わってしまった。
Over it all looms Kohtun Khan, one of the most memorable antagonists in recent memory. Unlike many video game villains, he is not a caricature. At times, he seems calm, rational, and even empathetic. But beneath that facade lies ruthless cruelty.
我が名はコトン。フビライのいとこ。チンギスの孫だ。
His mix of charm and brutality makes him both terrifying and unforgettable, a perfect foil to Jin's conflicted heroism.
Kohtun Khan!
The story unfolds not just through the main campaign, but also through the tales of Tsushima. These side stories are far from filler. They give voice to peasants, warriors, monks, and bandits, all scarred by war. They expand the world, enrich the culture, and weave in themes of honor, obsession, survival, and grief.
まさか
助けられなかった。
住職がいなければそうは逃げ寺は落ちます。
Thematically, the game is deeply respectful of Japanese culture. It explores duty, sacrifice, and familial bonds with nuance, while also presenting the darker realities of obsession and revenge. The tone is tragic. Ghost of Tsushima does not present a world of bright heroism, but one where compromises leave scars, and even victory may feel hollow.
とは違う。
奴もそう言ったな。
The first two acts are deliberate and expansive, but the third act feels more compressed. It drives the story to its conclusion with urgency, but at the cost of some breathing room. Still, it lands with emotional weight, culminating in an heartbreaking finale that forces players to confront the very themes the game has been building toward: honor, survival, and the cost of becoming the ghost.
俺の話を広めておるな。
聞きたい言葉を言ってやるのさ。噂は広まってるよ、クロードの。
お主が言い始めたデタラメではないか。
クロードの力を信じてみんな村に残ってんだ。
武士の力ではないのだな。
武士とクロードさ。
Few games are as visually striking as Ghost of Tsushima. From the very first moments, the island overwhelms with beauty. Endless fields of golden pampas grass swaying in the wind, crimson forests ignited by sunlight, mountains cloaked in mist, and coastlines battered by waves. It often feels less like a video game map and more like a living painting. The attention to detail is extraordinary. Armor sets are richly textured, with stitching, lacquer, and wear that reflect the world's authenticity. Villages, temples, and shrines are filled with environmental storytelling, telling their own tales of survival and destruction. Even the weather, shifting skies, sudden storms, soft snowfalls, all feels alive, shaping the mood of every encounter.
僧兵は死にましたがその身を挺した。
One of the game's greatest strengths is how its visuals integrate with gameplay. The guiding wind is not only a mechanic, but a poetic visual flourish, turning navigation into something elegant and immersive. Particles, leaves, petals, dust constantly move throughout the world, giving every scene a sense of motion and life. These details make Tsushima feel dynamic rather than static, reinforcing the idea of an island that breathes around you. Environments are varied and epic in scale, moving from vibrant open fields to claustrophobic fortresses and ruined settlements. They never feel repetitive, and the sheer scope of the island ensures constant wonder. Importantly, the game uses color to reinforce its themes. Vibrant landscapes contrast with scorched villages and dark fortresses, underscoring the tension between beauty and devastation. Cutscenes are staged with a cinematic eye, borrowing heavily from Akira Kurosawa's framing and pacing. The optional Kurosawa mode pushes this homage even further, reimagining the entire game in black and white with film grain and altered sound, turning it into a love letter to samurai cinema. Customization fits directly into this visual richness. Armor evolves as it upgrades, showing visible progression. Sword kits, bows, saddles, and masks let players personalize Jin's look, reinforcing the bond between player and character. Not everything is flawless. Facial animations fall short of the game's emotional ambition, sometimes appearing stiff or inexpressive. For a story so heavily dependent on emotion, this is a noticeable weakness. Yet, it's a small blemish on what is otherwise one of the most beautiful games of its generation. Ghost of Tsushima doesn't just look good, it looks incredible. It delivers an identity so strong that even a single screenshot can immediately evoke its world. A lone warrior, wind in the grass, blade drawn, riding into legend. If visuals capture the eye, the sound of Ghost of Tsushima captures the soul. In my opinion, the game should be experienced in Japanese. The voice acting in the original language is exceptional, carrying weight and authenticity that anchor the experience in its cultural setting.
わしは生涯続くこの道をお前と歩んでいくぞ。何があろうと。
The English dub is strong and polished, but it loses some of the resonance that the Japanese performances bring.
私がな。
お一人は無謀です。もし叔父上がいれば、このようなこと決してそのままにはいたしませぬ。
The soundtrack, composed by Ilan Eksheri and Shigeru Umebayashi, is as layered as the world it accompanies. Traditional Japanese instruments, like the shakuhachi flute and the taiko drums, blend with sweeping orchestral arrangements. The result is a score that is melancholic and introspective during exploration, but rises into thunderous crescendos during duels and major battles. The music is not merely background, it shapes the atmosphere, guiding emotion as much as the wind guides Jin's path. Sound design is equally meticulous. The world hums with life. Bamboo creaks near villages, cicadas sing in the forests, waves crash against rocky shores, and storms howl across the island. Weapons sound sharp and lethal. Explosions echo with weight, and even the silence has meaning. The haiku sequences also deserve special mention. These quiet moments of reflection combine gentle narration, ambient sound, and soft musical tones to create something rare in gaming, genuine serenity.
崩折れて寒き途中に根ざしたる大きも元は悪しき苗かも
In a world defined by war, these pauses offer fragile beauty, turning audio into meditation. Together, the voice work, music, and sound effects make Tsushima not just seen, but felt. The island breathes, whispers, and sings, immersing the player in a sensory experience as unforgettable as its visuals. Ghost of Tsushima is not a game of reinvention, but of refinement. Its mechanics are familiar: open-world exploration, stealth, dueling, skill trees. Yet, rarely has a game executed them with such polish and cohesion. Every system, from the guiding wind to the ghost stance, feels deliberate, meaningful, and connected to the story being told. It is a game of contrasts. Serene landscapes turn into battlefields, a samurai bound by honor forced to become the ghost, beauty standing alongside brutality. Its narrative is heartfelt and tragic, supported by memorable characters and a villain as cunning as he is merciless. The visuals are breathtaking, its sound design deeply immersive, and together they create an experience that feels both intimate and epic. Released at the very end of the PlayStation 4's life cycle, Ghost of Tsushima was more than just a swan song. It was a culmination, a showcase of what the generation of consoles could achieve, and a love letter to samurai cinema and Japanese culture. Today, With its sequel, Ghost of Yotai, already released, the original stands tall as a modern classic. A game that doesn't just honor its influences, but elevates them, leaving a legacy worthy of legend. For those who once dreamed of living as a wandering samurai, Ghost of Tsushima remains the definitive experience. Breathtaking, emotional, and unforgettable. What did you think of Ghost of Tsushima? Did it capture the soul of the samurai for you, or do you feel it fell short in some areas? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this review, consider subscribing for more deep dives into gaming history. And, as always, thank you for your time.
誰が猛虎を退けた？あの兵器に立ち向かったのは、槍川を守ったのは誰だ？
俺たちだ。
あんたたち黙って猛虎の好きにさせる気かい。
たとえ侍でなくともお主らは戦える。我らで夷敵を打ち払い